So let's try putting it all together now. Name the polygon, then use the markings on the figure to tell whether it is a regular or not a regular polygon. So we're looking at this polygon over here. So I noticed that it has 3 sides, 1, 2, 3. It has 3 angles, and it has 1, 2, 3 vertices or points where they meet. So to name the polygon, if I know it has 3 sides, 3 angles, and 3 vertices, I can go back to the previous slide and find which one of those it would be, which would be a triangle. Now you guys probably already knew by looking at that it's a triangle because it should be a familiar shape. But if you come across one that you're not sure of, go back to that chart. Okay, so we just named the polygon. We did that part. Now we need to decide if it is a regular polygon or not a regular polygon. So we're looking at the sides and the angles. Okay, so again, in this case, there's no numbers. They're using the markings. So we have a mark here, a hash mark here, and 1 hash mark here. That tells us that all of the sides are congruent because there's only 1 hash mark for each one. If one of them had 2, that would mean that this side and this side were congruent, but not this side. Okay? And then we can look at the angles. The angles have 1 marking, 1 marking, and 1 marking. So those are all the same. So are all the sides and angles congruent or the same? Yes. So is the polygon a regular polygon? Yes, because in order for it to be regular, all the sides and angles need to be congruent. Okay, here's a few more. So again, we're naming the polygon, and then we're deciding if it's a regular or not a regular polygon. So first things first, we're going to look at the number of sides, and we can number these 2, 3, 4, 5. So it is a 6-sided figure. So again, if you're not sure, go back to that slide. Hexagon is a 6-sided figure with 6 sides, angles, and vertices. So that's going to be a hexagon. Okay, now we need to decide if it's a regular or not a regular polygon. So we're going to look at the markings. So look at the sides. So we're looking at the sides and the angles. If they are the same, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they all have, sorry about that. They all have the same number of markings. They all have 1 hash mark on each side. So that means that the sides are congruent. And then we need to look at the angles. There's 1 mark for that angle. There's 1 mark there. 1, 1, 1, and 1. So all the angles are congruent, which makes it a regular polygon. Okay, so again, we're looking at the sides and angles when we're determining if it's regular or not regular. First, we're going to name it. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a 4-sided figure. That is going to be a quadrilateral. Now we need to determine if it has equal sides and equal angles. So these 2 sides, looking at the marks, both have 1 marking, but these 2 sides have 2, which tells me that these 2 sides are the same and these 2 sides are the same, but they're not all the same. We need all 4 sides to be the same. So I'm not going to give that a check there because the sides are not all the same. And then we have 4 angles with only 1 marking. Now, if it's a right angle, you're going to see, instead of a little curve angle, it's going to look like a box, like a square. Okay, so that means it's a right angle. Goes up and down like this, or like this. Okay, so if you see that type of marking instead, that's why. Okay, so these are 4 right angles. They are all the same, but in order for it to be a regular polygon, we need both the sides and the angles to be congruent. But in this case, only the angles are, not the sides. These 2 are and these 2 are, but not all 4. Okay, so if this had 2 hash marks and this side had 2 hash marks, then all the sides would be congruent, but that's not the case. So this is not a regular polygon. Okay, and let's try one more. Oh, this one looks like a stop sign. Let's count the sides to name it first. 1, 2, I'll number it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is a octagon. And then we need to decide. We need to look at our sides and our angles and decide if they are the same, both the same, then it is a regular polygon, and if not, then it is not a regular polygon. So, looking at the sides, I have 1 mark on each of them, so all of my sides are congruent. Angles, they all have 1 marking on each of the angles. So all my angles are congruent. So, because both of them are, this is going to be a regular polygon. Okay, so you guys are going to try some of these on your own. Okay. On the next slide, actually no, on the next slide I'm going to do a few more sample problems with you. And then you're going to try some on your own. So, stay tuned for the next slide. We'll do a couple more together.